My dear friends, Salamun Alaikum. It's good to be with you. So I just want to respond to two of the subscribers, two of the regular viewers that have reached out to me in various forms over the past 6 months. And the question they have, the dilemma they have is that being a Muslim who is often questioning the erroneous institutions and the erroneous and the faulty traditions that the rest of the Muslim community have embraced, it's often very difficult for you to function or to see yourself, socially fitting in to that community. And of course, for those of you who are regular viewers on the channel, you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about making the Qur'an the foundation of your religious worldview, making the Qur'an the foundation of your moral foundation, making the Qur'an the adjudicator, the judge over all other literature, all other books, including hadiths and so on, and taking the Qur'an's precepts and making that the criterion or the furqan. And when you do that, unfortunately, when you are a member of the traditional Muslim community, then things have a way of becoming difficult for you. For example, now when you come into a group and they speak about killing the apostates, when the Qur'an says the truth is from your Lord, let whosoever choose accept it and let whosoever choose reject it. Or where Allah says, La ikraha fi din, there is no compulsion in religion. And suddenly you find yourself in an opposition to those people who claim that you must kill the apostate, right? Or where the Qur'an says that you should marry girls when they reach the age of having maturity or judgment, a mature judgment in Surah Nisa. And other Muslims come and they say that, you can marry a 7-year-old because the hadith says so, clearly at loggerheads with the Qur'an. Those are just two examples. Or fight those who fight you, but do not transgress limits. And then you say, no, but, the conquests of Jerusalem, the conquests of Constantinople were all just, when the Quran says, fight those who fight you. So, historically, and also in terms of our everyday practices, you become almost like contrarian to the Muslim community. And I'm not even mentioning a load of other things like the rituals and, you watch my videos and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So the question that these two very, very good subscribers, coincidentally, they were both females, sisters, that they presented to me is, how do you fit in with the community when you have so many contrarian positions? How do you fit in with a traditional Muslim community? And let me tell you, being one of the worst or upstream people in my community, because that is what I was defined as from the time that I was a young man, I can really tell you that it doesn't feel nice to be an outcast, to be at times excommunicated, where people refuse to acknowledge you or shake your hand and just generally reject you as a member of their circle. So it's very difficult. But I can also share some ideas with you because I've also overcome it and I've also managed to bridge that kind of problem in a way. I think the first thing that we must understand is that saying something is not in the Qur'an is not the same as rejecting it. You understand what I'm saying? Saying something is not in the Qur'an is not the same as saying it needs to be rejected, boycotted, we need to abstain from it. Now, I'm not talking about those teachings that are contrary to the Qur'an. Like, for example, I'll give you a very, very typical and classic example in my own case. We in our part of the world, our Muslim community is more or less traditionally a very Sufi-oriented community. So we were taught by the sages who came from Malaysia in the beginning. I'm talking about the 1700s and 1800s. Those great sages who came here were Sufis. They were Sufi shuyukh, or senior Sufi sheikhs. And they came here, and that is the type of Islam that was initially planted here at the southern tip of Africa. They were also warriors, so they were Sufi warriors. So I really have a very, very great deal of admiration and respect and gratitude to those people. Like Tuan Guru is one of our ancient founders of the million-strong Muslim community at the southern tip of Africa. Then we have Sheikh Yusuf, who's also a warrior saint. And, saint, I'm not saying saint in the sense of a Christian sense, but saint more as a sage, a very learned, deep, reflective and philosophical person. And that was Tuan Guru, Sheikh Yusuf. There were others like Sheikh Moutura, there was Sayyid Sulaiman. And these are all Indonesian origin saints or sages who were also warriors on the battlefield. And because this was a Dutch colony, they were captured there and brought here. Now, this is what's the point? The point is that we have developed a very strong attachment to the Sufi kind of expression of Islam here at the southern tip. With the exception of the past, what is it now? Say 60 years? Say from the early 60s. That was the time that the Wahhabi taught, or the Salafist educated priests or sheikhs or whatever you can call them, when they started coming into our world here. Now that coincided with the Tablighi priests, but in Cape Town the Tablighis are not very strong, but we have a very, very strong influence in the last 50, 60 years from people who came through a different tradition of Islam, which is the Wahhabist, Hanbali, Saudi type of Islam. Because, they could go to Saudi Arabia, study for free, get their tickets paid, go there, live there for 10, 12, 13 years, and come back, and come with all those contaminated thinking and brought it back. So there's quite a rift between the Muslim community right even now. How do we fit in? Now, I myself identify very strongly with the founding fathers, right? With the founding fathers, with the people who were warrior sages, and I feel very close to them. In fact, their graves are venerated, are regarded as what we call here holy graves in Cape Town. And we have a number of them. We have about 10, 12, 15 of them. It could be more. If you're a Kramat person with Kramat knowledge in Cape Town, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's about 12 or 15. I myself have been to maybe 15 or so. And they're located everywhere. They're located, along the beach. At some points, they're located in the mountains, deep in the mountains, and there are some of them that I visited and still love to visit, located very deep in the mountains, in the interior sort of, and not in the interior of the country. Let's say a 2-3 hours drive outside of Cape Town, very rural, mountainous regions, and in there you'll find some of the holy graves. I'm talking about Sayyid Sulaiman as one of them, for example, one that I used to visit frequently. Then there's the Kramat culture, there's the acceptance of these founding fathers, let me call it like that. There's that tradition, and there's commemorating them. Then there's also a tradition of the sequences of melody, prayer melodies or prayer songs that were instituted by these founding fathers. So, for example, we have the sequence of Haddad. It is, I think in the Catholic Church they call it I don't have the exact word that they call for a prayer sequence. That word escapes my mind at this moment. But we have, for example, the sequence of Haddad. It's called Haddad because Haddad was a learned man who emanates from, I think, the company of Twanguru, one of the, and that sequence of chants, singing chants, are kept alive right until today. And I know that whole sequence. I know the entire sequence. It's about, say, 30 to 40 minutes, the whole sequence. We call it the Haddad, right? So I'll use that word, the Haddad. It's about 30 to 40 minutes. And I've memorized the entire sequence because I used to be one of the people that led the group where we recited this Haratibul Haddad. And it's a beautiful sequence, most of the chants are grounded in the Qur'an. Amanna billahi rabba wa bil Islam. Right, so just that's just an idea of how it will go. Now, if you're a group and you have first voice, second voice, and you have harmonizing, I'm telling you, this is truly a comforting and a warming, heartwarming experience, these sequences. And up till, I think, a few years ago, it was a Thursday night institution to recite, to render these sequences. Now, the point I'm trying to make is I'm very much at the forefront of those things. Where there's a family event, we also have other sequences, like we have what they call the Arwah, and that is also a different sequence, it's a bit shorter. We always render it at funerals, we render it when there's a name giving, we render it for any like gathering. We would have the chants together and we would recite together, and not all of it is based in the Qur'an, but even if it's not based in the Qur'an, it would still be sort of, in praise of God, in recognition of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. So, my point to the people, to the sisters, and I've actually put this to them, that have contacted me, is that I don't believe that because it's not in the Qur'an that you should go and take this Wahhabi Salafist approach. That is not my position. Absolutely not. And I'm going to come to why I'm saying so. You see, the Wahhabi Salafist approach is that it's our way, or the highway. You have no business conducting a Mawlud or conducting a Ratibul Haddad sequence or a Arwah. All of these things, they even forbid you from reciting the Qur'an out loud in the mosques in Mecca. That's a fact. You're not allowed to recite the Qur'an out loud in the mosque. You're not allowed to make a dua, a prayer out loud in the mosque. I mean, so their idea of what is haram is what is not in the Qur'an is haram, but that flies in the face of the whole philosophy of the Qur'an. The Qur'an is not a book that has declared everything wrong or haram or unlawful or illegal. The Qur'an came to lay down the boundaries. It didn't come to declare everything is out of bounds. You see, and the problem with some people who want to claim to be following the Qur'an alone is that now they reject everything. If you know the guy tell me that he rejects history, there's no history, there's no seerah. Now, I've got a problem with that even. How can there be no history? You see, for history, we can use the Khabar Ahad, we can use the Hadith books, because they are narratives that are not reliable in terms of building divine law. They're not narratives on which you can construct sacred law, but certainly those narratives you can construct history, you can construct, So my position is that you cannot construct religious, sacred, divine law from hadith books, but you can certainly construct history. If you can combine independent narratives, then you can certainly construct an idea of what history is. So, the people who are claiming to be Qur'anists or Qur'anites, they really threaten the sanity of our people who are serious about conducting our lives with some semblance of normalcy. So how do you remain healthy, mentally well also, if you are cut off from community, if you declare everything wrong and evil and haram. No, my friend. So this is the point here. I'm very much interested in the practices of my community because I'm a member of that community, right? I engage with that community in as far as I can, unless that community is engaged in practices that go contrary to the Qur'an. And that is, I think, the point that I want to leave with you today is that insular mentality of the Qur'anists is actually not helpful. And I spoke to the people who contacted me and I said to them, look here, you need to attend the Mawlud ceremonies, you need to attend the dhikr, the gatherings where they are doing, the Sufis orders, if you are part of that. I'm not saying you must go and join an Indian Sufi community if you feel alien in that community. But if you're already part of that community in London, let's say you're already a member of some Sufi Indian group, or you're already a member of some other Sufi group which is North African maybe based, or Turkish based, or whatever, I encourage you to be part of those communities. But in saying so, what I'm not saying is that you should surrender your position in the process. If you're a Christian, if your community was traditionally a white, let's use that word, white Christian or Jewish, whatever community, and you've embraced the Qur'an, now how do you engage with that community? My recommendation is, as far as possible, you need to go on outings, you need to go to the restaurant, you need to be part of their Christmas gatherings, you need to be part of their Thanksgiving ceremonies. If you're an American, you need to be part of all these things that make the family cohere and cohesive. And that is what I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying to use traditionally an American family to go and join now an Arab group. It wouldn't make sense. But I mean, if it makes you happy, go for it. We need to integrate, not assimilate. Now, there's the important lesson of today if you haven't read this yet. Integration and not assimilation. And the Muslims don't know the difference between the two. To integrate means to be part of that group, while retaining your beliefs, values, and your own sort of behavior. Let me put it like that. So if you are going to a Thanksgiving, or you're going to a dhikr, or you're going to whatever get together where family comes together, yes, you don't have to do the wrong things. You don't have to drink. You don't have to, do anything that is outside of what the Qur'an requires of you. But I say to you, do not sit in your house. Do not become a citizen of the internet only. You need to be a citizen of real society. The concept of salah, connectedness, integration is the real core that we are talking about here. You need to be part of society. Right. Integration means being part of it, but not surrendering your own individuality, right? Who you are. So retaining your individuality. So people don't want you to retain that. They're not worth being part of, right? So you are going to be you. The way you look, the way you dress, the way you speak, the things you do, the things you don't do, that's you. That's your identity. And you're going to integrate with that identity. And any group that asks of you to surrender your identity, that's not a good group to be with. Now, assimilation is the opposite. Assimilation means joining the group and losing your identity, surrendering to the group's identity. And that is absolutely wrong and destructive, because now you are asked to do things that you don't want to do. Now, the Muslim community is very difficult for them to manage the two within themselves and also between them and other communities. The Muslim community have a problem with integration because they feel that by integrating you are putting yourself at risk. So Muslims generally don't want to eat where so-called non-Muslims eat. They don't want to eat out of, like I met a person once who I was eating at a Christian guy's house, and they offered me a piece of cake, and I ate it. And after that, the person told me, you shouldn't be eating cake. These are not Muslims. You don't know what's going on in their kitchen. I said, dude, it was a cake. It was a piece of cake. It was eggs and flour and sugar. What's up with you? And maybe some essence, whatever, vanilla essence. And he says, no, but we should be safe rather than sorry. I said to him, dude, we are losing more by acting like a elite, like a heronfolk, like a chosen people. What the hell is wrong with you? Eat the people's cake, even if there's a bloody 5 milliliters of booze in, because I know the fiqh, by the way, and the fiqh says that if wine loses its properties and it becomes halal, even if they threw a quarter cup of wine in the bloody cake, it's still halal, because the wine no longer intoxicates. It's lost, the alcohol has been lost out of the wine. And so they have a problem with how to deal with people who don't share their faith, because they're always at risk of like being contaminated, spiritually, physically. And that is the problem that the Muslim community faces. We don't know how to integrate. And so we become these silos, we become these insular groups, and we make ourselves disliked. We make ourselves being disliked by other communities because you're so insular. You don't want to dress the way people dress. You want to look like an Arab in a Muslim country, in a Western country. Your women want to wear like some sort of Far Eastern or some Indian nation, and they are in the West, they are in Africa. You understand what I'm saying? Is Muslims have forgotten how to integrate. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, for all the accounts that we have of him, he was a completely integrated man into his society. That made it possible for him to speak to them, because there was lines of communication. Now, if he had been a recluse, a hermit, sitting on the mountain, not speaking to anyone, no friends, no family, no nothing, would he have been able to conduct that message? Would he have been able to render the message to the people? Absolutely not. We need to integrate people. We need to be part of our community. If you're in an African community and the community has certain practices, they dance around the fire and they sing certain things, and there's nothing wrong with it, and there's no sexual suggestive interaction between the people, and there's not zina, the potential of zina. There's no derogatory practice like self-injury. Absolutely, I say go. And I've been part of Sufi dances. It's bloody amazing. I mean, I've been we have in Cape Town, we have an Indian community called the Kokani community, and I've joined the events. We commemorate certain events. I'm not Cockney. I'm half from Surat in India, Gujarat, and half Malay, but I attend it, and I'm telling you, it's a heck of a fulfilling to have the tambourines and to have the dancing. And my friends, these are not haram in the Qur'an. They are events that that keep us happy, boisterous, happy, uplifts our spirits, and I'm very much into it. I don't organize it, and I don't I'm not a leader in those events, but I join in if it's there. I've been to Shia gatherings where they conduct certain things also. And not self-injury, of course, as I said just now, or like self-flagellation. I don't believe in that. It's senseless to damage yourself. But there's other ways of movement, physical movement. You've all seen the Turkish dervishes, the whirling dervishes. My friends, this video is here to once and for all tell you that the Quran hasn't come to make everything unlawful. It comes to endorse and embrace the beautiful aspects of culture that are there, and for you to feel free to join it, with keeping in mind the hudud, the limits, the parameters that Allah has set there. So go ahead and enjoy your life. Do whatever you like doing, whether it's climbing mountain, whether it is boat riding, whether it is surfing, whether it is joining a club, a dance club that is, in a way that is a dance club that is not sexual or exhibiting or exhibitionist of nature. These are all the things that we should be endorsing and embracing as we integrate into our societies. Now, to assimilate, I said to you, that is the problem. We're not going there and losing who we are, but we are going there. I love Muslim rappers like Lupe Fiasco. I don't know him that well, but I love his music because I think Lupe Fiasco I think he's a New Yorker. Am I right? I have some of his CDs, and for me, it's a classic example. And even the Muslims of North America, the followers of Wallace Muhammad, unfortunately, I think they were quite infiltrated at some point by the wrong crowd. I just think Islam should take on the outer form of the society and the community where it lands. And the Qur'an will take on all types of beautiful colors and shapes and figures as is with nature. Nature is Muslim by nature, but when you visit nature in North America, it looks very different from when you visit nature in the Middle East or the West Asia. Or nature is very different in Africa than it looks in Australia. That is the beauty of Islam, my friends. It's been a bit, maybe I've belabored the point a bit, but I hope I've driven the idea home that do not be exclusionary, do not be isolationist, integrate, but don't assimilate. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.